Our language is a prude's worst nightmare. Content is not suitable for all listeners. You have been warned.
Welcome! You're listening to Bewitched Banter.
I'm Krista, and I believe that people are inherently shitty.
And I'm Amy, and I tend to believe that people are naturally good.
But ironically, I'm a super believer in the supernatural and all things spiritual.
And I'm a total skeptic.
We're best friends, and in this podcast, we're seeking to explore and understand each other's perspectives with deep dives into the spooky, the spiritual, the magical, and the mystical.
And some straight up spoofs.
Today is Dream Story Time. Hopefully, these aren't haunting dreams, but it sounds like you might have a little bit of a creepy nightmare situation.
Oh, yes. Buckle up your seats, everyone. Get ready.
Oh.
We are going to Murder Town.
Murderville, which is absolutely hilarious if you guys don't watch it.
Have I watched it?
Yeah. We watched it with Corey, and you thought it was kind of stupid.
Oh, yeah, I didn't like it.
But anyway, it's hilarious. Go watch it. Murderville.
Yeah, it wasn't my thing.
On Netflix.
Wasn't my jam. I thought, I don't know where I'm going with this. I had a thought, and now I'm brain dead.
Brain dead. It's not coming to her in her dreams.
Well, one thing you didn't cover in your history actually is sleepwalking.
I didn't. You're right.
Which is really fascinating. And I was looking into it a little bit more because my story I'm going to cover, his name is Albert Tirelle, but he has been nicknamed the Sleepwalker Killer.
Whoa.
But I wanted to talk a little bit about sleepwalking first.
Oh, good. I'm glad you got it down because I don't know why I didn't think about it as like dreaming. Are you dreaming, I guess, from your research?
I don't really have the answer for that.
Okay.
I think if we really want to examine sleepwalking, that would be another great episode.
Okay,
Add it to the list.
Totally.
When I looked into it, they said around, which is a huge number, so it kind of gives me the idea they don't know shit about fuck Marty.
Mm-hmm.
Like you always say, around 1 to 15% of the U.S. adults, not children, adult population sleepwalks. But that number to me is such a huge variable that makes me think they don't really know.
Yeah, right.
Children are different, though. Majority of children do sleepwalk at some point. And they believe it's because children experience less rapid eye movement, which you talked about.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I would think the opposite, but that's interesting.
I actually agree with this because I know my sister, she had a sleepwalking story when she was a kid.
Oh, she did? So both of you two have some weird sleep things.
Well, it's common for kids to sleepwalk,
okay.
Though. It's not, like, what I'm saying is very common.
Well, I'm just saying you got your night terrors and...
Yeah.
So he's got the sleepwalks.
But I think I might have sleptwalk as a kid. I need to ask my mom, though.
Okay.
And fact check that. But it's really common. And usually it's from kids who are the age of 3 and 7.
Okay.
And that, I don't know the logic or the science behind this, but they said that kids who wet the bed, they are more likely to sleepwalk too. So those two factors tend to go hand in hand.
Okay.
And sleepwalking, which I thought was another fascinating fact, it's actually a genetic thing. It tends to be in the family. So if, let's say, your father is a crazy sleepwalker, then maybe you might have a more likelihood of being someone who sleepwalks at night. And 80% of people who experience sleepwalking have other family members that do it as well. So it shows you how much it's really passed down.
So then you guys maybe get it from your family.
Yeah. I didn't get into this because I think this would be another fascinating topic for another day, but I'm always vividly going back to Oprah like I always do.
It's always the Opes.
But she has like some great stories on her show, and I always remember she had a lady on her show, and this isn't that uncommon, that where this lady, I believe she was like on a diet, eating really healthy, and she kept gaining weight, and she just could not figure out for the life of her what was happening.
Oh, the sleep eaters. Yes. I think I remember this story on Oprah, actually.
That is my worst nightmare. I'm sorry, but
That'd be awful. Maybe that's what I do. No, I just fucking eat while waking.
But I would like, if I'm going to eat all this food, I want to enjoy it and be present for it.
That's true.
I would have a lock on my fridge.
Oh, that'd be awful.
You would have to lock me in my room because I'm like, I am not eating in my sleep and not enjoying it.
That's right.
Yeah, I better enjoy that damn cheeseburger I'm eating at 3 in the morning.
I might get In-N-Out later.
Ooh, that's the best.
Our weekly food mention, In-N-Out. Sponsor us.
No, we usually talk about Jersey Mike's, which I saw someone eating Jersey Mike's the other day, and I was like, triggered! And I texted you, and I go, it's been 2 months since we've had Jersey Mike's.
You did. You were trying to, like, slyly pressure me, like, come on, man, Jersey Mike's.
Yeah, it's been 2 months. We are abstaining. What is wrong? I was like, who are we?
I know.
Back to sleeping, not food, which I do love to talk about. So sleepwalking, the part of the brain that stores memories isn't working. So that's why a lot of people wake up and they don't remember it.
Okay.
And the part of the brain that allows people to make decisions isn't active either. However, the brain, the part of the brain that processes and remembers like heavily practiced movements is active. So I'm thinking a little bit like there are certain things you do in life that you don't consciously have to think about.
Okay.
And you do that in your sleep. And then I want everyone to remember this tidbit from my story, because I think it's really essential to my story. That is, sleepwalkers only do things they have done before. Because you're doing heavily practiced movements, you're not going to do new things in your sleep. So you're not having new experiences. So like think about the lady who's going to the fridge eating. That's something she's done before.
Poor lady.
Yeah. But you're not going to take on like a new experience. Like if you've never, I don't know why this is coming top of mind, but if you've never bowled before, you're never going to bowl before.
Okay.
If you never murdered, you're probably not going to murder again. Or you've never murdered before, that's not going to happen.
Oh, wait, so is your guy murdered?
Yes, and this is why I'm saying remember this tidbit. I don't know why I threw bowling in there.
I love it.
Okay, because I'm such a big bowler.
Wait, so that mean this dude has murdered?
Okay, yeah, but think about it. Yes.
Right, in that theory.
Yes. Now I'm going to get into my story. So a little background on Albert. His full name, just to remind you, is Albert Tirelle, but I'm going to call him Albert. He was born in 1824 and lived in Weymouth, Massachusetts. And he married at the age of 16 to Mary Bickford. And they had 2 children.
Okay.
He is a shitty husband. He had a reputation for sleeping around.
Oh, man.
And I believe he did it so much that it was like commonly known. That was kind of his reputation.
Okay.
Like, he's like a serial cheater. Not just a killer, just a cheater too.
Serial scumbag. Piece of shit.
But his wife, Mary, I don't believe she was the most innocent person either. One of her children, this is very tragic, died as an infant.
Oh.
And she was living in Maine during the time. And her friends were like any good friends were like, well, what can we do for you? How can we like help you during this tragic time?
Mm-hmm.
And they ended up inviting her to Boston to spend time with her.
Boston. What up, Carrie and John?
And Mary traveled to Boston and like absolutely just loved the city life. And more than anything, she loved the glamour and the glitz and the men who had big pocketbooks.
Big something.
And mostly
big something else.
pocketbook, more of the money, because she wanted to live this glamorous lifestyle that she's seeing in Boston. She needs someone to, help support it.
Okay. Sugar babies.
And Mary wrote to Albert while she was in Boston having the time of her life and said the following. Remember, this is early 1800s. I cannot let you know where I am, for the people where I board do not know that I have got a husband. James, I feel very unsteady and will consent to live with you and keep house, but you must consent for me to have my liberty.
Okay.
But I don't know if James is like a nickname because his name's Albert. I'm like, hun, get your husband's name right.
Ooh, maybe she's cheating too.
Well, she 100% is. People don't know I have a husband. She just admitted that. I mean, we don't need to read between the fine lines there. Again, he was a cheater, so let's not waste too much time feeling bad for him.
Yeah, nope. I don't feel bad for his
maybe this was all because he was cheating, so I'm not really going to fault Mary on this one.
Okay.
And Albert, serial cheater, would love to visit brothels. And this is where he found his new lover, Maria, which ultimately she took his last name, so Maria Bickford. He ended up leaving his past wife and leaving for Maria, the sex worker, and married her.
Oh, hey, that really happens.
Yep.
Get it, Maria.
However, Albert absolutely hated the fact that his wife was a sex worker and really wanted her to abandon the profession.
Yet you frequented brothels.
I mean, I can't blame him for hating the fact that she's a sex worker, but I kind of feel like you knew what you were getting into when you started the relationship.
Yes, and don't at me with your self-control. Like, she has the autonomy to do what she wants. You don't own her.
But I also think, why would you marry someone who's a prostitute if you don't condone that lifestyle?
Why would he visit brothels if he doesn't condone that lifestyle?
I think it's one thing to frequent one, and then one to be married to someone who does it.
Well, I mean, if they had an open marriage, that's one thing. If they don't, fine. Right? That is their agreement. But
I like how we're fighting about a prostitute and a serial killer's relationship.
God,
we are very invested here.
I just want Maria to get her shit.
Well, you're going to want a lot more from Maria soon.
Okay.
In 1844, Albert had inherited $80,000 from his father. His father was a successful shoe manufacturer.
Okay.
So $80,000 today.
When I say probably sound like a fuck, I'm going to guess.
Oh, sorry, 8,000. I read that wrong.
8,000. 100K?
More.
Really?
Yep.
500?
Not quite. So you were close. You were around there, the ballpark. $230,000 today. In the first year of dating his new lover, Maria, the sex worker, he spent his entire inheritance.
Jesus.
Yes. So
on drugs and sex, I'm assuming.
I'm assuming Maria was kind of a gold digger. He would buy her basically anything she wanted, and he would take her on several luxury trips where they only stayed at the best hotels and dined at the best restaurants.
Don't you know? This is unacceptable.
My husband will wire you the money.
The money.
He may have treated her financially well, but emotionally is another story.
Okay.
A letter was found from Maria, and she was writing her ex-husband. And she told him that Albert had been abusing her, and she wanted to run away without him knowing.
Okay.
And then I have to do a warning here for anyone who can't handle hearing gruesome shit, because this is very gruesome.
Part of our explicit
I'm going to say
content.
Fast forward a minute or so if you're queasy.
You know, guys, I am, so watch out for some squeals. Oh, God, I'm nervous. Okay.
So not even after a year of being married to Maria, Albert killed her in the most horrific way possible. Oh. Maria had just finished with her last customer of the evening, and Albert went up to the bedroom. After the client left, of course. The client's not there no longer.
Ain't there no longer.
Shaniqua
don't live here no more. Again.
He's like, been there,
we told y'all last night on recording. Shaniqua don't live here no more.
Been there, done that. Okay, back to being serious, because this is very tragic.
I'm sorry. Yes,
this is very tragic.
I'm just nervous because I don't like this stuff.
He used a razor to slit her throat from ear to ear.
Which, by the way, I don't know how I know this, but I know this. If you don't cut from ear to ear, you don't kill the person. So to actually he'll decapitate, you have to go from ear to ear.
Okay.
Don't at me how I know.
I'm not surprised.
I think it's because of all the shit I watch. Anyhow.
Oh, really? No shit, Sherlock.
Oh, that's awful. Okay, I'm sorry.
In this heated act of passion, he slit her throat so deeply that her head was severed from the rest of her body. Okay, that's the worst of it.
Okay. Sorry, I'm okay, Ella. I know. Ella doesn't like it either. Oh my God. Okay. Sorry.
He lit 3 fires, and then the fires woke up the brothel owner.
Wow.
Which to me kind of surprised me because I was thinking you would think he would have heard like the fight, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure...
Maybe he did it so swiftly she didn't have time to scream.
That's doubt it, though. Oh, I don't know. Let's not think about it. The owner then woke up and discovered Maria's body. He immediately called the police. And when the police came to the scene and were really examining what happened, they found that Maria's hair was slightly burned and her skin was charred. But remember, he was lighting these fires to destroy the evidence.
Oh, my God.
Several people had seen Albert fleeing the brothel. So this is very important for evidence, right?
Eyewitness testimony.
Yeah. And informed the police. And this officially started the investigation to find the killer.
Okay.
While they're searching for Albert, several local newspapers released stories letting the public know what happened to Maria. In the stories, they disclosed that all signs pointed towards Albert being guilty. Like I said, several people reported seeing him at the brothel around the time of the crime. He also left a bloody razor by Maria's deceased body.
Oh my God, dumbass.
He left his cane, and then he left bits of his clothing that I'm assuming were probably torn from the altercation that happened beforehand.
Okay.
The public, rightfully so, was furious about these ruthless, unjust murders. And they were also, you have to remember the time. They were furious at Albert for leaving his original wife
1800s, right?
1820s.
1820s. Okay.
Well, that's when he was, I believe he was born.
So we're in like the late 1800s.
I think this was more 1840s at this time. But they were mad at him also because they thought of him being an unethical person for leaving his wife for a sex worker. So it's like it kind of added more fuel to the fire at this point. They were just like, oh, he's such a terrible human being. Albert, while trying to flee, he drove down south and he visited some relatives. And his relatives, which I was kind of like, hell no. If you're my relative, I would not help you out in this situation.
And also, don't they all always just go down south? Like, you know, like, come on.
But they were trying to help hide him from the police. And they also gave him money so he could be on the run. So they're helping him.
Wow.
So I know he went down south, but then he ended up going to Canada. It's like, pick one direction, right? Come on. And probably assumed he was going to get away with it at this point. He wrote his family, letting them know that he was planning on fleeing to Liverpool. He boarded the boat, confident with his future. But however, Mother Nature had other plans in store for you, motherfucker.
Ow!
Mother Nature coming out for your ass.
That's right. She don't play.
After sailing for so long, this is when the weather started to turn and a storm rolled in. And the crew decided it was way too dangerous to continue the journey. So they turned around, and this led Albert to then flee to New York City. So he was down south, Canada, and now he's in New York City. So again, he's like, I'm going to take another boat to try to flee this situation because he's on the run. And you have to think about lots of people know his name now. Because his...
Better change your name, Albert.
And his looks. Because his story had been in the newspapers, right?
So America's Most Wanted.
He bought another ticket, and this ship was supposed to travel to New Orleans.
Lola.
I'm assuming whoever sold him the ticket or someone who knew of his plans ratted him out.
Ooh.
And they reached out to the police. And
you got burned, Albie.
And it doesn't say who it was, so I'm assuming it was anonymous. But they received a tip that Albert was going to take boat basically to New Orleans on this day. So he's on the boat again, probably feeling confident, thinking he's getting away with things. And this is when the asshole was arrested. And it was big news, and everyone's excited, right? We caught the asshole.
Yeah.
While they were on the hunt, like, publicly, everyone seemed to side with Maria. Like, obviously, they're like, he's a serial killer. We need to get him. We need to put him in jail. But this all changed.
Really?
Which was really surprising to me. Word got out that Maria may have been a gold digger.
Oh, God forbid she's a gold digger, so she gets to deserve to be murdered.
I know, exactly.
F that narrative.
And the majority of the public actually turned on Maria and viewed her as like being this sexual seductress who seduced Albert and took advantage of him and his money.
That's so fucked
because
up.
money's more worth more than someone's life, I guess. Since Albert's case had received so much national attention, Rufus, and I kept wanting to write Chode, but it's choked. A former senator and lawyer at the present time came forward to represent Albert. And I'm assuming he's like big time.
Okay.
On March 26, 1846, the prosecution had several witnesses coming forward to reiterate the fact that they had seen Albert Tirelle at the brothel around the time Maria was killed. Chode argued during the trial that Albert was a noble, moral man, and this all changed due to the fact that he had met Maria. He argued
noble, moral, my ass. You going to brothels, cheating on your wife and shit. Your prior wife, moral, suck it.
I know. I was like, it all changed when he met Maria, but he was cheating on his wife when he met Maria. So that's not very. I wouldn't say that's high morals there.
Yeah. Funny how they turn their back to those things when it's convenient. And hello, Christian community, to Donald Trump. Yes, I'm talking to you.
He argued that, yes, people might have seen Albert at the brothel, but he had no motive to kill Maria. Let's think about the fact that he kind of like wasted away his whole inheritance on Maria. So that seems like some reason there.
Right.
And that she wouldn't leave the profession. His other argument was that, yes, you might have seen him at the brothel, but did you actually see him kill Maria? Because you can't prove that he killed her, right? Then Choate, the lawyer, proposed 3 different scenarios to explain what actually might have happened to Maria. So we're thinking about reasonable doubt here.
Right.
So scenario 1, Maria may have killed herself. Let's remember now.
No one slits their throat from ear to ear. Their own throat.
Well, people might slit their throat, but you can't do it as, I mean, this is a really dark, messed up thing, but you can't do it that deep. Like, that has to be inflicted. You know what I mean? Because remember, her head was basically severed off.
Yep. Okay.
Sorry for all our queasy folks.
Number 2.
He suggested that someone else was guilty of the murder. And since no one saw Albert kill Maria, that there's reasonable doubt. Scenario 3. This is when Choate used the defense that Albert was sleepwalking.
Okay, I was wondering where we're getting background to this.
And he could not be held liable for his actions. Choate then told the jury about how Albert had been sleepwalking since he was around the age of 6. And he had a reputation to be violent in his sleep. He once supposedly hurt his brother. Another time he smashed a window. And then this asshole sleeper also pulled a knife on his cousin. If that is true, man, like, he needs to be restrained while he was sleeping. But again, remember at the very top I said, people don't create new behaviors
while sleepwalking. Yes.
But I'm sure that fact wasn't known at the time.
Wow.
But I'm like, did he murder before?
That's what I'm saying. He must have, right?
I think sleepwalking is total bullshit. I think he did in a heated moment of action and anger. I don't think he was sleepwalking. Yeah, thank you. This lawyer, you know how people do their like final...
their closing argument.
Closing argument, yes. That's the word I'm looking for. So his final argument lasted over 6 hours.
Jesus, they're allowed to do that?
Yes, that's like torture.
Holy shit.
And they gave him an hour break from dinner, but then he blabbed on for another hour and a half. Oh my
God, homie. He did it. We know. Just relax. He did it. It's fine.
The jury then, after 6 painful hours of probably listening to this person go on and on and on and on. Oh my God, it sounds terrible to me. Spent 2 hours coming to a verdict. So drum roll here. What do you think the verdict was?
I think I might know it based on my case, but
you cheated.
Not guilty.
Yeah, you already knew. Okay.
I'm like, not guilty.
So the jury decided that there was enough reasonable doubt, and Albert was the first man in history to ever walk away from a trial as a free man using the defense of sleepwalking.
Wow. And
this is my story for the horribly tragic, unjustified death of Maria Bickford, and she still deserves justice today.
Absolutely, she does. Wow.
Yeah, so I took dreaming to a very dark place.
Level.
But I was surprised that there's several other people have used this. It's not like a one-time thing.
Mm-hmm.
Several people have used this defense before.
Wow.
But he's the first to ever get away with it.
Yeah, clearly. That's
But there was a
wild.
listicle of people who have used sleepwalking as a defense. Even like modern people today use it.
Wow. Well, I actually have to revisit my notes because my gal, who's a badass, I'll cover her shortly, I think she, I thought it was him, but the timelines might not add up, and there must be another Sleepwalker Killer.
No, there's several.
Okay, so then
yeah,
it may not be actually related to yours.
Yeah, there's several I was looking up because I was trying to decide which one I wanted to cover. And then I thought, because some reason it seems hard, for me emotionally, it's harder to cover more recent murders. No, I know it doesn't make one less than the other, but some reason because it was 150 years ago. Mm-hmm. I don't know why.
Gotcha.
Do you get my logic?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I decided to go with the older story than a more modern one.
Okay, gotcha.
But totally on. But that was my story about the Sleepwalker Killer.
Piece of shit, Albie.
Yes. Well, we'll hand the mic over to Krista.
Yeah, super, super stoked to cover a badass female scientist and practitioner because she's incredible. So excited to be covering today Dr. Rosalind Cartwright, also known as the Queen of Dreams.
Quite the nickname.
Isn't that awesome? Mm-hmm. And I'll get to why. But most of my information today comes from a New York Times article, stellar writing, memorializing her passing last year, actually, almost a year ago. And she passes away at 98.
Wow. Long life.
She was a researcher, one of the very first females in the field, if not the only at the time, for sleep disorders and the role of dreaming in our health. And specifically, one subject group that she did was divorced women. So I was like, I am covering this queen for sure. So
interesting.
I do want to say off the top, she was not related to your guy. I thought she might have been based on the Sleepwalk Killer, not knowing there was several of those. Mm-hmm. So just to clarify, Dr. Cartwright was not involved in Amy's case at all. But she was involved in another case, which I'll get to in a little bit. All right, so I'm going to celebrate women again since we had a tough International Women's Day on accident. So
that was totally not planned.
Horrible women. But anyway, Dr. Cartwright is known as the Queen of Dreams by her peers, and those are including people who are like big brains, scientists, doctors, what have you. But the reason is because she studied dreams to actually help people legitimately. So I'm also really proud not only becoming a badass woman, but to be going back to a good person in a concept here. So she helped sleep apnea patients, people with sleep disorders.
Sleep apnea is when you lose your breath during your sleep, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And even depression in divorced women. Hey! She was a pioneer in the field of sleep medicine and research since its earliest days. And again, virtually she was the sole woman in the field. Her research of sleep and dreams spanned almost a century. Or excuse me, half a century. So she's doing
a century is like, damn, was she coming out of the womb making notes about dreams?
Well, it's funny. Her mom loved dreams, and we'll get to that in a moment. But one of her most notable practices happened to be, again, the testimony of one such sleepwalking killer. This man was also acquitted, and it was in more recent times than yours, which was in the 1800s.
Doesn't that make you sick, though?
Yeah. Who knew?
That is not a defense in my...
Who knew? This was a Canadian man named Kenneth Parks, who also brutally murdered his wife. And because of her expertise, Dr. Cartwright was called to the stand to testify on his case. And he was, based on her expert testimony, ruled as a non-insane automatism, in which she told the jury that there's triggers that can cause sleepwalkers to act in depraved ways. So like if in real life you have gambling debts or other marital worries, which this guy did, Kenneth Parks, you're more likely to see cover to act out in your sleep and do those, like, act on things you're experiencing.
To be honest, even if you are sleepwalking, I still think you deserve to rot in jail.
Oh yeah, especially for your guy, horrific.
Well, even if you really, and I think it's a bullshit argument. Yeah, they're really not sleepwalking, but if they really truly are, I still think you should go to jail. Yeah, absolutely. Because you can't be. If you can't control yourself in your sleep, maybe you do need to be locked up.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, he was acquitted, as I said, because he was proven to have some abnormality of moving through sleep stages. And somehow technicality got him off the hook. I don't really understand that part. However, murder, again, was not what Dr. Cartwright lived and breathed. She studied dreams. She knew that dreams played an integral role in people's emotions and sense of self. And when sleep was disturbed, dreams could also really mess up people's work and making really messy narratives for their lives and really fold into, like, you're dreaming about it and fold into your dreams. So she wanted to understand why the emotions we experience in dreams can come out negatively in life. So that's what she studied. She was born she wasn't born a doctor. She was born in New York City, named Rosalind Falk. 1922, 1922. Mm-hmm. And her parents were Stella Falk, and she was a poet, and her father was a real estate mogul in Toronto. So Dr. Roz, as she was referred to in one of her articles as of honoring of her passing, I think she was really revered by her people. So I'm going to call her Dr. Roz. Okay. From now. Short for Rosalind. Dr. Roz was interested again in sleep from a young age. She knew dreams were worth studying and truly believed that. Her mom was fascinated with dreams, as I said, and often recounted her own dreams at the dinner table with her children. And more important, her mother Stella believed in the healing power of sleep. Okay. So Dr. Roz, grows up, she goes to college, and of course at that time there are no programs that actually studied sleep. So she went then on to study psychology, an undergraduate at the University of Toronto, and then she got her PhD because she was smart bee from Cornell University. This is where she would study empathy, believe it or not. And I was like, that's fucking cool. I want to study that. And she became one of the very first scientists to flip the study of empathy on its head. Prior to her work, empathy was seen as a projection that we make up in fear, in response. Whereas it's now known, because of Dr. Roz's study, is that we actually feel that person's emotions physiologically.
Yeah, I knew that.
As an empath. I am, and I'll speak for one. And so she studied that and was one of the pioneers of finding that, oh no, humans are really actually feeling and experiencing the other's emotions.
Yeah, that's the difference between like sympathy and empathy.
Mm-hmm. So I thought that was really fucking cool. From here, Dr. Roz taught briefly at Mount Holyoke College in Massachusetts, but there she soon after went to the University of Chicago, which is where I thought my sister is, but she's at the University of Illinois, Chicago. My bad. So Carl Rogers was a professor there and invited her to teach. And he was very interested in her work around empathy because he is known as the father of humanistic psychotherapy. And again, bringing it more back to the patient versus external factors that are like outside of you. Mm-hmm. So he was like, let me see how she can study within people's emotions from within. And so by accident, Dr. Roz, almost by accident rather, from this article, she found her way to sleep. And again, she finally got there because she had always dreamed of it, pun intended, right? She made it happen for herself. She dreamed it. Yes, again, pun intended. So while teaching psychology at the University of Illinois College of Medicine, that's where my sister teaches, P.S., as well, she and her husband were having some tough times, and he ended up walking out on her. And then there are two very young daughters. Obviously, Dr. Roz was freaking devastated and depressed because of this. Who can relate? who can relate? Ooh. She was having terrible dreams and super anxious. She was unable to sleep. And she said, screw it. If I can't effing sleep, I'm going to study why I can't sleep.
That's
and
cool.
So
more power to her.
That's fucking right. And so because of that, and her forever interest in dreams, she opened the first sleep lab to understand why her subjects would eventually become also other divorcees and divorced women. So she wanted to understand why they had similar sleepless nights.
Because you experienced that, right?
Oh my God. Yeah, I had to take, speaking of benzos, I had to take a F-load of them just to fall asleep.
Because the anxiety was keeping you up?
Yep. Oh,
I could see that.
Goddamn. Whew. Those were real bad days, man. How did I survive?
But you're here now.
I am.
That's all that matters. You can see clearly now. The rain is gone.
Sure is. It feels really good. But anyhow, so other divorced women clearly experience trauma. Yes, preach. We do. So because of this, Dr. Roz hypothesized that dreaming, particularly in REM sleep, again, is a way to process emotions experienced. She went on to write a book called The 24-Hour Mind about her experiences studying divorced women.
Interesting. But that'd be a good read.
Yeah, I kind of want to, for me especially, want to check that out. But her daughter Carolyn remembers all this work. Obviously, a lot of research went into it and taking away their mommy's time. So this is a quote from the New York Times article. Quote, her daughter Carolyn said that she was at the age of 5 or 6 when her mother worked nights, and that afterward, when Carolyn was 8 or 9, she had terrible nightmares. It was a traumatic time, and I was pretty mad at one point, she said. In her dreams, monstrous giants were chasing her.
Aww.
Yeah. She had the wings to fly, but her poor little wings wouldn't work.
Aww.
So Dr. Roz takes the bull by the horns and decided that at bedtime she would be with her daughter and kind of talk her through it, ease her fears before sleep and drifting off. And she was quoted as saying, maybe next time you could get the monsters to run slower and make your wings bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what she said to her daughter to help her. And apparently her daughter has reported never having a bad dream since.
Aww.
And Dr. Roz said it was a gift. She said the gift of sleep.
Aww. Sweet.
Yeah, I thought so. But she ain't done making boss lady moves. Okay? So she's doing this as the first woman. She then becomes chair of the Department of Behavioral Sciences at Rush University Medical Center in Chicago in 1977.
Okay.
She founded its Sleep Disorder Research and Treatment Center, where she would remain there until she retired in 2008. So she'd been studying shit forever, which is badass. So during her storied career, she also studied, like I said, and treated disorders like sleepwalking, sleep sex, sleep eating, and troubles of those that she called sleep explorers. And these are people who would stray from their homes while sleepwalking. That shit is scary. No, thank you.
Yeah, that is scary.
But anyway, one of her biggest nods is actually finding something to help sleep apnea patients. So she studied this so deeply, and she hypothesized that it was something that affect people and the partner, obviously, as we know. So she studied the impacts of the snoring partner lack of sleep, and then obviously the person, why are they going into this thing, and how it impacted their relationship and their marriage, right? Because sleep is obviously so integral into how we perform and act and live during the day.
And happiness,
exactly.
So if you don't get enough sleep, it really can make you depressed.
Yeah, absolutely it can. Now, on the flip, if you sleep too much, like I was doing in those divorcee times, that's also not great. But Dr. Roz's work showed us that the diagnosis of obstructive sleep apnea was actually a thing, and because of what she discovered, it was instrumental in developing like a tongue retaining device as a treatment for sleep apnea patients. So it's something to like restrain the tongue so they didn't disturb the breathing while sleeping.
Interesting.
And because of her research, they were able to actually create a medical device to help these patients.
Wow.
And their spouses.
That's so interesting that your tongue would have that kind of impact.
Yeah, it's just crazy. So even though she wasn't home a lot, Dr. Cartwright said in this New York Times article. In the night collecting dreams, I felt at home, she said in 2011.
Is this a Hallmark movie?
Actually, there is one.
Is there? No shit.
Not about her life, but the guy she testified on behalf of.
I thought it was about her. I was
Speaking
like, wow.
of him, Kenneth Parks, he was the young Canadian man, again, acquitted of murder thanks to Dr. Cartwright's testimony because he was so thankful to her. He asked her if she could help him retrieve his memories from that awful night.
Mm-hmm.
She recalled it in her book, The 24-Hour Mind Again, and she said to him gently, would you even want that? And apparently he answered with his low head, and he said, only if you can take it away again.
Oh, wow.
So at least he's remorseful.
Yeah.
So this woman, badass, she's studying dreams, she's helping people, ahead of her time, obviously. And, you know, for the better or for worse, this guy was acquitted because of her expertise in sleep research and dreaming and sleepwalking. But she did some incredible things for the 50 years plus. And again, women pioneer, helping other divorced ladies, but just people in general. Because again, sleep is how we function. So that is the story of Dr. Roz, who again passed away. I want to say, when did she pass away? This was, again, last year, March 15th, when this was published. She died at 98 years old.
Wow. Long life, though, but a long, meaningful life.
Long, meaningful life. And this is her, just so you can see.
Aw, she looks really sweet.
Yeah.
Well, good job.
So, Dr. Roz.
So, I do have some updates, because I know on Tuesday's episode, we said we'd answer some questions. So, the first one, which I asked Krista, and we weren't sure, was, do you burn more calories in your REM? And the question is yes. So during REM, our glucose metabolism increases, accelerating the rate of calorie burn. So the longer you sleep, the more calories you burn, but oversleeping has the reverse effect and it slows down your metabolism.
Hence my gaining weight in the divorce, sleeping it off situation.
You don't think it was all the eating too?
Well, I did. Yeah. I mean, on top of the booze, the eating, the sleeping, it was not a good combination.
Yeah. But it was during the pandemic.
I mean,
you got to be forgiving of yourself.
I know. I'm working through that.
And then the other question I asked Krista, because we were talking about the cycles, like how many cycles does someone have in their sleep? Is it 1? It's actually on average 4 to 5, but most cycles last 90 to 120 minutes. It probably depends on how much of a solid sleeper you are. And then I was looking and I got into a little, you know, how you find one thing. Yeah.
Thank you, Google.
And you said something about, I don't know what made me think about this, but being pregnant.
Oh, yeah, because pregnant women typically are folklorically, whatever, they are typically said to have crazy dreams.
Yes. And it said vivid dreams and nightmares are more common. And I didn't look into it too far, but it seems like more probably it's like the anxiety, the anticipation of bringing on a new life.
Yeah, and hosting it nonetheless.
Yes, and having to take care of the thing. I mean, that would be, exciting and highly, I could just imagine your emotions are at all-time high.
Yeah.
Because your body's changing, you have no control of your body.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, sleeping and dreaming is such a fascinating thing. I thought this was a really cool topic.
Thanks. Yeah. Again, obviously no secret I love dreams. And because of this, we're going to do sleepwalking and what was the other one? Help me out. Oh, sleep paralysis. Because that shit... Ella's time to go. She's trying to take a nap, apparently, speaking of dreaming. Excuse us. So, sleep paralysis and sleepwalking coming at you at future dates.
Awesome. Again, rate, review, and subscribe. Thanks
Patreon,
for listening.
Patreon as well.
Yes.
$2 a day goes a long way. Yes, that rhymes.
$2 a day? You're asking for a lot.
Oh, I mean, $2 one time. That's fine. We'll take anything at this point.
Yes. Anyway, thanks for listening. We appreciate it more than you know. It makes us so happy. And peace be witches.
Peace.
Good night.
Nighty-night.
Thanks for listening. Check us out on Instagram or bewitchedbanter.com. Suggestions for the show? Email us at bewitchedbanter@gmail.com. Credits, music Phantom Fun by Jonathan Boyle from premiumbeat.com. Podcast edited and produced by Krista Hins and Amy Holt. As always, if you enjoyed, please rate, review, and subscribe.